Good evening, and thank you for joining the open book. We are so excited to have you all tonight. We have a very special guest that is joining us this evening from our M.E.N.D organization. Now, this month, as many of you know, is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, among other things that are taking place this month. And we are honoring that tonight by highlighting the M.E.N.D organization. I'm going to tell you all a little bit about myself and this particular journey that my husband and I experienced. And so when I tell you that I am so excited to have this woman of God on here tonight to express my appreciation. She just do not know that what she went through to start that organization, God had my husband and I in mind, and it was such a blessing to our lives. And so I will go through a little bit of my journey, and then we're going to talk to Rebekah tonight, and she's going to share with us more information about the M.E.N.D organization, the different services that they offer, and so forth. Many of you know, and I think I've shared it many times before, but previously in about 2015, my husband and I were so excited. And y'all, a lot of y'all know, I didn't get married until I was mid-30s, okay? So I was already, I'm like, Lord, I wanted to get married in my 20s, but God said, you know what? I think I'm going to wait until you're 35 before you get married. And so I got married, and I'm thinking, okay, when we decide to have a child, we'll take a break, enjoy each other first, and never knowing like the things that you're going to have to go through when it comes to that moment. And so when we first got pregnant, I was so excited. I started sharing with everyone about the pregnancy. And so lo and behold, I had a miscarriage at 8 weeks. I did not get a chance to hear my baby's heartbeat during that time. It was an emotional time, but there wasn't like a connection quite, but it was still hard and difficult. Later on that year, it seemed like we got pregnant around the same time every year. So I found out that I was pregnant again at around the same time. I think it was around the end of December, early January of 2016. And so because of what happened, a lot of people did not know. I waited till you get to this safety zone. And I'm sharing this because many of you know 1 in 4 people or women experience some type of loss of a baby. And I didn't realize how many people did until I shared my experience from that first time. And so I was like, man, all these women, I never knew. I started talking about it. And so the second time I was a little more careful, my husband and I, and we were like, let's just tell a few family members, and then we'll share after the safety zone, which is usually about 12 weeks or so. And so we had a gender reveal. So excited. We found out that we had a boy. My husband was really excited. And so I think about 2 weeks after that, I went to the doctor, and I noticed that this appointment, she was kind of wondering like what was going on. She needed to go get a second opinion about something. And I had this feeling that something was not quite right that day. I had already, because I was considered high risk, I had already gone to my other gynecologist on a Thursday. Everything was fine. This was a Tuesday. So I went into a second room, and she looked at the sonogram, and lo and behold, the 4 dreaded words that I never thought that I would hear was, I can't find a heartbeat. And I remember in the moment, my husband and I, we looked at each other, and I thought that I would lose my mind, but because God is God, I just said, God, I cannot go through this again. I can't even tell you how we got home that day. It was nothing but God. that got us home. We went in separate cars because I was coming from work, got home. We were believing God for a miracle. Like, God, you could turn this around, but God didn't. I lost my baby on April 16th of 2016. Fast forward to, once again, the end of that year. No, January of following years. I was in January, but it happens, conception happens in December. I found out, and I'll get to that part. I don't want to get to that part yet, but let's fast forward to October. And in sharing the testimony of what happened that last time, a lot of people, because a lot of people had grown to know his name was Malachi. We were going to name him Malachi, had grown to know him and love him, and they hadn't even met him yet. And during that time, I went through a lot of emotions, y'all. And many of you who are watching who have experienced this know that it can hit you at any moment. Anything can be a trigger. You go into the grocery store, there were times I had to come out because I could feel this overwhelming, just bout of tears about to come. I would call my husband in the drive-thru somewhere and just bawling. And I remember a friend reached out to me, and he said that there's an organization in my church for people who have lost babies called the M.E.N.D organization. And I was like, really? Because I had never heard of that. First of all, this situation is not talked about a lot. And so just hearing that there was a church with an organization that you could go to, that there were many people who were welcoming the fact and the support that you actually lost your child, but guess what? We are here for you. My mind was blown away. And so I went, they had what they called a walk to remember. And I remember going to that event. And it's so funny because I told my mom that day, I said, Mom, I feel like, I'm going to a funeral today. It was it was heavy on my heart. And when I got there, though, I was amazed. I had never seen so many people that it was okay to talk about it. There was this beautiful room. And I'm speaking, I'm pretty sure right now it's probably, I haven't gone in 5 years. This is 5 years ago. It's probably bigger and greater and grander. But there was a room where you can go in and have a table set aside to bring pictures of your baby and clothes and things of that sort. You can fill out cards. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is amazing. Like, although, it brought the emotions of sadness, I was amazed that my baby was a baby in someone's eyes, not just the parents, but someone gave us permission to say, you know what, what's your baby's name? My baby's name was Rebekah Mabry. And that part in itself, I was just blown away. And I want to show you all some pictures as I talk through this next part. Let me share my screen. Okay. Okay, thank you for your patience. Okay, so we think about it, this next part, okay? So everyone at this event is given an ornament. And the concept, and Rebekah can clarify this when she tells us more about it, is because your child, you won't get a chance to hear your child's name at a graduation, they literally take out time to call every child's name. It doesn't matter if it was 50 or 5,000. So then at that time, you can go up and they give you this beautiful Christmas ornament. After you get the ornament, you go and you place the ornament on the tree. But as you can tell in this picture, it also has engraved Rebekah Mabry and his time of death, the date. And so we got that. You go and put it on this tree. And when I tell you that part, every little part, I'm blown away, right? So that's not it. So then after that, you get a balloon and you get to write your baby's name. And y'all, I think I was kind of fine because I'm still like, my mind is still trying to wrap around the fact that there are so many other people here going through this, because I didn't really feel like I had a lot of people to talk to. And so there's a beautiful song being played, and they give everyone a balloon. You can write a message to your baby. And after that, I remember us holding the balloons, and we let the balloons go. And we were recording, but then I remember turning around and I looked up in the sky, and it's like, oh my gosh, like hundreds of balloons. And in that moment, I pictured every little baby, Malachi included, taking their balloons to heaven. And it was in that moment that God gave me closure. The panic attacks, and I'm crying tears of joy. So if I cry, it's not that I'm sad, but God gave me peace. The panic attacks went away. My baby is forever in my heart. But it was in that moment that I received closure. And one of the most difficult times in our lives for both of us, my husband included, we were okay. We knew where he was. And this ceremony really, really sealed the deal. And so after that, on the way there, you get a sign if you decide to get a sign, and the signs are placed on the path to go to the open parking lot where this event is taking place. So we picked up our sign. We still have that. Right now, there's a Garden of Hope if you would like to purchase bricks with your baby's name and honor them. There's a Garden of Hope, and these are probably, I'm pretty sure it's more bricks there now, but these are some of the things here. And then a picture of Jesus with the woman. I had to look closely one time when I went, because the first time I saw it, I was like, man, that's beautiful, but there's so much detail there. And then I took this picture actually with my rainbow baby. I was pregnant on this picture, but we had just released another balloon. It was a big balloon. And during the photo shoot, we wanted to release a balloon to Malachi. And so my husband and I, when I saw this picture, I said, this is how we felt that day. Although we had tears in our eyes, we can now look up and smile because we know where our baby is. And so I am truly grateful for this organization and this man and woman of God, Rebekah Mitchell. And I want to welcome you to the open book. Y'all, I've heard so much about her, but I finally get to meet her. I saw her there, but it was like in the moment, so much going on. I never got a chance to really see her or talk to her. But I just want to say thank you. And I thank you for even coming on the open book. How are you today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. It's always an honor and a privilege when I'm invited to speak and share my story and share about the ministry that the Lord birthed within me following the death of my baby. And man, to hear you tell your side, your perspective of coming to an event that we work so hard to prepare for every year really blessed me, because not often do we get to hear perspectives like that. So thank you.
Wow, thank you. I thank God. I really do. I asked God to let me share what I needed to share, and I really am grateful. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and how did you, or why did you come up with this organization?
Okay, well, my husband Byron and I, we have been married for 33 years. We live in Irving, Texas. And we got married really young. And a couple of years after we had been married, well, actually, a few months after we were married, I was diagnosed with a very serious kidney disease called focal segmental glomerulosclerosis. Pretty big name. And at the time, my doctor said, whatever you do, don't get pregnant. And my husband was in dental school at the time. And we said, well, that's okay. He still has a couple of years left of dental school. We just got married, so we're not even thinking of having a baby yet. Well, a couple of years later, I was thinking about having a baby. And so we had to go to my doctors to talk to my kidney specialist, and he got us connected with an obstetrician. They both, as I always say, read my rights to me. They did not give me a red light. They did not give me a green light, but they gave me a very strong yellow light of saying, we understand that y'all are newly married and you're young and you want to have a family. And so here are your risks and y'all need to think about what to do. So we earnestly prayed about it. And my sister tells me that I'm all about fleeces. So I kind of put this fleece out and said, Lord, if it's your will for us to have a baby, just let me get pregnant right off the bat. And so within a couple of weeks, I was pregnant. And so that pregnancy was fairly uneventful until I hit 30 weeks gestation. And at that point, I was put in the hospital, then on bed rest. And at the time, my doctor said I would never make it to term, but miraculously I did. And our first baby, Byron Jr., I don't know how, but somehow he will be 30 years old in a couple of weeks. And so he's our living child, Byron Jr., even though he's 30, we still call him Little B. So Little B was born full term and healthy, but he was born with a cord wrapped around his neck 3 times. So I had to have an emergency C-section with him. Just after his 3rd birthday, we decided that we wanted another baby. So again, we went to our doctors, and this time that yellow light was brighter because they said, we know things went well your first time around, but you've lost some kidney function since then. And, we're dads, we're family men. We understand wanting to have a baby, wanting to have a family, but medically, you just need to be very aware of your risks. So once again, I went before the Lord and I said, okay, Lord, if it's your will for us to get pregnant, let me conceive quickly again. And that month I was pregnant again. And so, however, very early into that pregnancy, my creatinine, which is something in the blood, if you're not familiar with kidney disease, it's what they can, in layman's terms, it's basically how they can kind of figure out what's going on with your kidneys. So low creatinine is good, high creatinine is bad. And so pretty quick into that pregnancy, my creatinine went up. And I remember my doctor calling me, my OB calling me, and he said, I got your lab report from the kidney specialist today. And I just want to tell you, Rebekah, and at this point I was 12 weeks along. He said, I just want to tell you that, this pregnancy is not going so well. And at this point, your life is more important than that of this baby's. And if things don't get better, we may have to consider terminating the pregnancy. And I remember sitting straight up on my kitchen floor and I said, I want to tell you something. You will not take this baby from me early unless it's dead. Well, miraculously, my creatinine went down and my blood pressure went down and things got better. And we discovered that our little baby we were carrying was a boy, just what I wanted, because ever since I was a little girl, I wanted 3 boys. And I always knew that my first one would be named after my husband, because that's just kind of what we do in our family. We have juniors. So when I was a little girl, I knew that whatever my husband's name would be the name of our first son. And our second son, I don't know why, but ever since I was a little girl, the name Jonathan was always just something very special to me. So with my husband's approval, we named him Jonathan, which means precious gift from God. And then we named his middle name Daniel after my grandfather. But then around 23, 24 weeks, I started having complications again. They put me in the hospital. And then I was put on bed rest. We had to move in with my parents because I had a 3-year-old to take care of, and Byron was working a lot of hours. And then they put me back in the hospital, and I was there for a couple of weeks, just trying to get further and further and further along. And then one day, to make a long story short, it was discovered that Jonathan no longer had a heartbeat. And so they did a C-section that night, and the cord was wrapped around his head, his body, and his left leg. Unlike my living son that was wrapped around his neck 3 times, Jonathan just became entangled in it. So his death had nothing to do with any of my kidney complications or anything like that. And so, I really had to struggle with the Lord about that, because I thought God and I had a deal, that we were going to have this miracle baby. And And I knew that he who began a good work in me would see it through to completion. And at that moment, I didn't see that completion. I saw in my heart, I felt betrayed. I felt cheated. I was very confused spiritually. And then I was physically suffering because I still had this very serious kidney disease that I was contending with. And so that first year following Jonathan's stillbirth, even though my family and friends, they lavished their love upon me and they were certainly grieving too, I was dying inside. Even though I had a wonderful husband, the most adorable little boy, and again, wonderful support from my family and friends, I was struggling physically and spiritually and mentally. And so that year, or that first year, was just so hard in a million different ways. But then so that was June 24th, 1995. And then fast forward to Mother's Day of all days of 1996. So I'm approaching the 1-year anniversary of Jonathan's stillbirth. And I can't even really explain it other than I was at church on that Sunday night, on Mother's Day night, and the Lord just restored my soul and just gave me complete healing. And not that we ever get over our loss, not that hurt ever goes away, but there does come a point where, kind of like what you were saying, is we release that hurt, and there's a bit of closure to that deep, dark pain. And so about a couple of weeks after that, I knew the Holy Spirit just spoke to me, and I knew that the Lord was going to do something very big, that Jonathan's life was not in vain, that there was meaning, there was purpose for all of this. And I told my husband one day, I said, I don't know what God's going to do, but I know he's birthing within me something big that I can't explain. So one Monday morning, I was in the process of just cleaning house, and I was about to throw away the big edition of the Sunday paper when I felt compelled to look through the obituary section just to see if maybe there was an obituary of a baby. Because back then, when a baby died, it was not uncommon at all for parents to put a notice of the baby's death, just like we do adults. Now you don't see babies in the obituary section very often because it's very expensive. But back then it was free. It was just kind of part of your package deal. So sure enough, there was a notice of a baby. And I felt compelled to write this mom a card, and I sent it to the funeral home that was listed in the obituary section, hoping and praying that that funeral home would forward it to the mom. And she did, or they did. And so we became quick friends. We had lunch together quite often. We spent hours and hours on the phone together. And she eventually said, hey, did you see in the paper about that other baby in Duncanville that died? And I said, no, I don't make a habit of searching the obituary for babies. And she said, well, because you reached out to me, I'm going to reach out to her. And then we met another mom and another mom and another mom, and it snowballed. And that's when I realized the Lord, this was the Lord's plan to birth this ministry that I eventually named M.E.N.D, M-E.N.D, which stands for Mommy's Enduring Neonatal Death. And even though we have the word neonatal in our name, we are for families who have lost a baby to miscarriage, stillbirth, or early infant death, up to about a year old. What started out as a little teeny tiny organization that I ran from the corner of my bedroom has grown into a national organization. We have chapters of M.E.N.D across Texas and several other states. We host monthly support groups. And I should say that all of us in M.E.N.D, we all say that we're experts by experience. Every single one of us, we have personally experienced the death of a baby. And as I said, we offer monthly support groups, and they're not 12-step. We don't have a curriculum or anything. We just openly share and talk about our loss and talk about what we're going through. We offer remembrance ceremonies, like you mentioned, the Walk to Remember, which we just had here in Irving a couple of weeks ago. And then we have a Wave of Light ceremony on October 15th. And in December, we have a Christmas candlelight ceremony. Each of our chapters has its own Facebook group, which enables families from their areas to connect with other moms in their same area. We publish a free magazine that goes all over the world. Each issue focuses on a different topic pertaining to pregnancy and infant loss. We go into hospitals very often and train healthcare providers on how to care for a family when a baby dies. And we do things like this. So in a nutshell, that is me and that is M.E.N.D.
I, and some of that I didn't even know that you all did.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, and I'm glad that you brought up that anger part, because I do want to talk about that. But one of the things that I struggled with and that was challenging was even when I was a little girl, I know one of my aunts lost a baby, but it was like, kind of not hush, but wasn't really talked about. And
Right.
so when I experienced this, I didn't know where to go. Like my mom was trying to be of comfort to me, but it was hard for her because she had never had the loss of a child.
Mhm.
So it was only so far she could go. But there were women, and I thank God for the women who were brave enough to say, I did too.
Yeah.
Because in that, I felt like, wow, okay, I have a support system, like someone that I can call and scream to, or,
Yeah.
we can just talk about this without people thinking you're crazy. Because some people will look at it and try to belittle the experience because you had not given birth sometimes
Right.
in those cases. And like, oh, that wasn't a real baby. You really didn't know, but there was life inside of
Yeah.
you, and you get to see sonograms and so forth. So why do you think that a lot of people are not comfortable in sharing, that type of information?
Well, one, you mean like from a parent, like why are the parents not comfortable talking about it,
Yes,
or why are
talking
others?
about it.
Okay,
Yes.
so as far as parents go, I think it's because, well, for one, some people are just private. I'm not private. With all, and I should go back and say that a few years after we lost Jonathan and after I started M.E.N.D, I did have a kidney transplant, and then a year later we got pregnant again and we lost that baby too. So I've had a stillbirth and a miscarriage. And with all three of my babies, my living baby, my stillborn baby, and my miscarried baby, everybody knew when I was on day 14 of my cycle. And I told everybody, I'm on day 14, we're ovulating, pray for me and Byron tonight. So I have no secrets. I tell too much, but not everybody is like that. Some people are very private. They're just quiet about it. And I think in addition to that, some of it, and I don't want to stereotype, but some of that comes from generations of where it was dealt with very differently in generations past. And there was a time where you just didn't talk about it. However, that is also why pregnancy loss is called the silent grief, because in our hearts, we are about to explode with needing to talk about it and all of these emotions that we have, and we think we're going crazy and we need someone to validate our feelings, and we think, are we making too big of a deal of this? And no, we are not making too big of a deal of it. So I think, to answer your question, one is just some people are private, and also because there's kind of that pressure from maybe other generations of those around saying, no, this isn't something we talk about.
Wow, that's good. And I'm glad that you said that because that is so true. It can be generational. And I've even noticed in some cultures, some people are
Yes.
more willing to talk about it than in other
Sure.
cultures as
Yeah.
well. So I'm glad that you said there was something else you just said, and I wanted to piggyback on it. Man, it'll come back to me. So, what are some ways, because you talked about the anger, and that is the anger part and that silent grief that some people are dealing with and they don't have anyone to talk to, and which is one reason I wanted to do this tonight, just to give people, the knowledge of there is no more than us. There's someone else that has gone
Oh,
through
yeah.
that and have experienced that pain. So what are some things that we could do to help with the pain of that loss?
Well, again, because I'm not very introverted, I think to talk about it and to talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. And a lot of that, actually being able to talk about it, falls on the responsibility of those of our support system, of those closest to us. Are they allowing us to talk about it? Because so often they're told, and this goes back to other generations as well. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 days to talk about this, or 3 weeks, or 3 months, and then we're not going to talk about it anymore. And that's not okay. That's not healthy. So number one, it's important to feel that freedom to talk about it. And on that, let me just say, many times our family and friends, they may want to talk about it too, but they don't know if it's okay. They take their cues from us. So it's not real fair if we get mad at our family and friends for not talking about it if we're not talking about it. they aren't going to feel that freedom to bring it up if they're not hearing us talk about our babies and using our baby's name and letting them realize, hey, our baby will always be a part of our family forever and ever and ever and ever, and will always be included in our kid count, and we'll have a stocking on the mantle, or or whatever. And so so not only giving yourself that freedom to talk about it and letting others know that you want and need to talk about it, but also talking to others who have experienced it through a support group or an online group, or however that might be. It's just so vital to realize that everything that I want to say you, but it's we, because it's me too. Everything that we feel and experience and think, it's normal and it's okay. And I can promise you, in a group of maybe even just 5 moms, and I never want to leave the dads out, but even if just 5 moms, the craziest thing that you're about to say, probably at least one other person has felt that same thing. So it validates your feelings.
And that is so true. And I'm transparent too, and I love, because we're very transparent here at the Open Book. But you said something about the anger part, and if I'm being honest, like even when I lost my baby and I looked around, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to do it the right way, Lord. I waited till I was married, and I'm thinking that we're going to have a child, and then some people are not even doing right, having 5 and 6 kids. Yep. And so you go through that phase, you go through the, thinking about the unknown, the future. Okay, am I going to be able to have children in the future, and so forth. And so I thank God for the people who had gone through it before me that were able to kind of give me some tips and advice. One of my friends just let me call her. I couldn't say anything, and she just let me just sit there. Mm-hmm. She said, if you want to scream, just scream. She let me do that. And so you have an outlet. If you have to scream and get somewhere in the car and just scream it out, cry it out, allow those feelings and emotions to be real to you, but know that God will help you through it. I can say I'm a living witness, because I know how hard it was during that time. And to sit here and talk and only have a little moment of tears is showing that God is real, and that He will heal your heart. I talk about my baby's name. We do the same thing you just said about the ornaments, the stockings. We get one every year for him. And one of the things that people, my son, which, let me fast forward. So God is a restorer. The same time in 2017, I got pregnant again in January. And so this time I'm like, now look at here. This here, I'm nervous for real, because I did not want to go through that 3 times. So me and my husband, we told less people even this time. And I think we shared the news with the majority of people during our anniversary. And we only had, like, I think at that point, maybe 1 more month. We waited until, and God told me to protect your baby and just cover, because you just never know. And so I did that, and God blessed us with the son, and his name is Micah. And so in that, some people, and I don't even know if they know that I lost Malachi, will call Micah Malachi. And it will trigger me sometimes, where I'm like, oh my gosh, it brings the thought back of him in that moment. And so, but I'm just a witness that God will help you through. Now, with your support groups, you don't just have like one support group, you have a variety. Can you talk a little bit about the different types of support groups you have?
Sure. So we have, so this pertains to our Dallas Fort Worth ones, because all of our different chapters have, they may not all have the exact same ones, but everybody of course has what we call the main one, which focuses on the loss. And then here in Dallas Fort Worth, we have also what we call our subsequent pregnancy group. And that's for those that are considering becoming pregnant again or are currently pregnant. So that group actually used to meet in person, but then when COVID happened and we all had to go online, our website, every month we published, like right now, our October calendar of online support groups is out. Well, so when people all over the nation, because all of our chapters were online, we put all of our Chapter, I mean, all of our support groups on that calendar. And people from all over the United States started hopping on that subsequent pregnancy group. It's really just our Dallas group. And then when our restrictions lifted and we went back in person, the director, Marissa, and I talked about it, and Marissa said, I've got women from all over the United States that get on the subsequent pregnancy, what we call it the subgroup, or the younger generation calls it the rainbow group, but we call it the subgroup. She goes, I can't just say, sorry, you don't live here, we're not going to offer support anymore. So we made the executive decision to keep that group online. So now it's really a national subsequent pregnancy group that meets the fourth Tuesday of the month. And then what are we on tonight? The third, are we on the third? Yeah, the third Monday in October. We have our Men of M.E.N.D group, and that is a national group for the daddies. And that group's about to start in 20 minutes online. That group is run by Matt McGee. He is the husband of our Northwest Washington chapter director, and my husband Byron is the assistant director of that. So they'll be getting on in about 20 minutes to meet with some of the dads across the nation to talk about the Men of M.E.N.D. And then we have a lot of different Facebook groups too. We have Spanish, we have Parenting After Loss, and we used to have a little play group, but COVID kind of dissolved that for a little while. So mainly we just have our main support groups right now, and then our subgroup and the daddies group.
In the daddies group. Okay, I love that, because we were actually going to come to the subsequent because we were trying to conceive again, and I think by then I had forgotten once you're pregnant, you kind of forget and have other stuff going on. Yeah. But that was one that really interested me. But we do have from one of our live participants a question. Elder Lavonda, you have a question? I think you're on mute. Okay.
I'm sorry. Well, what you were saying, why people sometimes don't share. Well, I also lost a baby. And I think at that particular time, it's going on pretty much 21 years. We lost a little boy in between my two girls now. And I think at the time, my daughter was so young. She was probably, let's say, Francesca, she was probably like a year old. And then I got pregnant. And so I think at that time, with her being a preemie too, when we lost the baby, it was like pretty much trying to get, we were focused on her as well too. And so not so much that we brushed it over, because the thing is, it's always a memory, because the thing is, we knew, well, this happened to me. We went to the doctors. I went to the doctor. This was the weekend of Mother's Day weekend. And so we're going to find out what the sex of the baby was. Well, the doctor checked me. First, he saw the doctor and he checked me, but I had dilated to 3. And at that time, I was too early. And so the next thing we saw was the doctor, and he told us the sex of the baby. And he said it was a boy. But he said, but you guys need to go directly to the hospital now. You need to stay on a stretcher, because I was too early to have the baby. Well, but let's just say I went to everything, and in between that, I stayed in the hospital for about a week. Well, they started giving me bathroom privileges. When they started giving me bathroom privileges, I had went to the bathroom. I looked down, the umbilical cord was hanging. The baby was trying to come. I didn't get nervous or anything. I just went back to the bed and called the nurses, and they ran in. And at that time when they came in and everything, of course, the baby was actually stillborn and everything. So we had lost the baby. He was named after my husband. Of course, like you said, he would have been the third, because my husband is a junior. Oh. And the thing is, of course, Presbyterian, they gave us, of course, we got the blanket and, all the little mementos and everything. But at that time, a lot of family members were asking, why didn't y'all have like a memorial service? I didn't want a memorial service because it was already hard enough for me. And it was like you said, it was like our private time, because sometimes when you have so many people, it's hard to really grieve. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't tell a lot of people, of course, we just did what we had to do. And but the thing is, you always have it in the back of your head. It's not like something you just move on, because every Mother's Day is a reminder for me.
Yes.
Because at that particular Mother's Day weekend, of course, all of my family members, we always got together. And of course, I was pregnant at that time, so it was a video camera too, as well, as a memory of, of the baby that we lost. But the reason I got on the call today, because this is really near to my heart. I've had so many different challenges. I've said there's not an area that is not, and that I have not missed. I'm a cancer survivor, stroke survivor, and but I just wanted to share my story.
Oh,
Thank you,
Thank
LaKeisha.
you. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being on here.
Yeah.
God bless you. I love you so much. And I know it takes a lot to open up and share that. So thank you so, so much.
You're welcome.
Are there any words of encouragement, Rebekah, that you would like to share with someone that is going through this for the first time or the 10th time? Because I know that it was hard for me, even with 2, but there are women that have gone through this like numbers of times, 5 and 6 times. And maybe someone is watching that has happened to. What are some words of encouragement that you would like to give to them today?
One of the things that I don't think we've touched on tonight, that I don't know if you ladies can relate to this, but I'm guessing you probably can, that one of the issues that we moms deal with a lot is guilt. And we start thinking, man, did I do something? Should I not have lifted that box? Did I sleep a weird way? Did I raise my arm a weird way? Should I not have gotten out of bed, or whatever? And I think that guilt is something that just so oppresses us when we are grieving. And so that's the first thing I want to say. If there's anybody watching who you've experienced a loss and you are really struggling with guilt, you've probably been told this before, but I want you to know it wasn't your fault. And and the Lord can really, really heal you of that guilt. And I feel a little hypocritical even saying that, because even after so many years, I know the Lord has taken that guilt away from me. I know there was nothing I could have done to prevent a miscarriage, and there's nothing I could have done to prevent my baby getting tangled in the cord. But just as a mom, I struggled with, what did I do? What did I not do? It was my fault. And so that's the first thing I want to encourage you with, is that it was not your fault. And secondly, I just want to tell you that, yield to the Lord. I know sometimes it's easy to blame God, because we think, well, you could have changed it. And yes, he could have. But we also know that his ways are higher than our ways. And I love the little bitty scripture in Deuteronomy that says the secret things belong to him. And am I still on? Am I still on?
Yes.
Okay. Because I think this other meeting's about to start. Sorry. Okay. So I just got this little interruption thing. But anyway, I just wanted to say that the secret things belong to the Lord, and we could drive ourselves crazy trying to figure out the whys. And that's just our human nature to do that, but we're never going to know that why. And I just want you to know that your baby's life was not in vain, no matter how short or how long your baby lived. Your baby, all of our babies, had meaning and had purpose and was a gift of the Lord.
Ooh, that is powerful. That is so true. I'm so glad that you touched on that, because the guilt part plays a big part. You do always wonder, why? Is it anything I could have done differently? And then the anger part, we touched on that tonight. I just wanted to say, your baby, and you said it also, Rebekah, was a baby. You were a mom. However you choose to honor your baby, that is fine, because sometimes we're afraid to honor our babies because of, like, people are going to think I'm crazy and blah, 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 blah. No, everyone grieves differently. Everyone honors memories differently. I know my husband, not too long, and I don't have it on tonight. I used to wear it all of the time, but I have to get another clasp. But he gave me a necklace that is a circular charm, where on the inside it has the angel wings, it has an M for Malachi, and it has something else. And I wear that all of the time, and it makes me feel close. Um, I talk about my baby. I don't talk about him just all of the time. God leads me to share my testimony with women that are going through that. And you will be amazed that some of the hardest things that we go through in life, or some of the things that we don't understand, God uses those things to bless someone else. Some things are not about us. And as much as that's hard to say when it comes to a baby, even with Rebekah's situation, little did she know that later on, my husband and I was going to need the organization that was birthed out of her. So God will use all things work together for our good. God is a restorer. He is a healer. He will hold your hand through it. I won't say that it won't go away, because it won't. That was your baby. However, God is there during those times where you feel like, oh, I'm about to go crazy. And then he blesses you. Okay, because now I have two. And I'm like, Lord, okay, you rock this. And now I have two just all over the place. But looking back, I couldn't see past all of the grief and hurt and pain and anger. But just know that God has a blessing in store. And in his perfect timing, I could not rush him with marriage. He would not let me rush him with children. He will bless you when he sees fit, and in his perfect time, and all things are well when God does them. Know that you are not alone in this, and it is okay to talk about it. You have this great organization. And Rebekah, how can they follow you all? Do you have Facebook, Instagram?
I think the easiest way is just to go to our website at mend.org. That's MEND.org. And all of our information is on there, how to get on a support group, how to get on our Facebook group. All of our information is on, yes, that's correct, mend.org.
Okay. And I'll share that in the Facebook chat as well. Those of you who are watching, shout out to Facebook. We have some people watching and tuning in tonight. I will share that website as well. But y'all, I am just encouraged. I am blessed tonight. I thank you, Rebekah, for coming on tonight and just sharing your testimony, us learning more about the M.E.N.D organization. So if you want to visit that, they have the upcoming, and I actually want to come because I didn't know about December. So I want to come to the December event. But they have the upcoming December event. Follow them on mend.org, MEND.org, and you can learn more about the support groups. You have a lot, and you have them in various cities, right?
Yes. Yes.
Various cities. So even if you're watching from a different city and you're like, man, I can't get to Irving, they have them possibly in your city. So go on the website and check out that information. But y'all, thank you so much. I pray that you were blessed tonight, that you received something, some encouragement, some inspiration on tonight. But we hope that we see you next time. We have another event coming up next Monday, and I will start sharing more information about that soon. So be on the lookout. You can follow us on the Open Book Club on Facebook. And you can see all of the flyers and so forth, the videos and all of that. But we hope you all had a great evening. And we thank you. Thank you, Elder Lavonda, for joining us as a live participant. And we will see you all next time. Have a blessed night. Bye-bye.
Thank